Hi everyone, welcome back to the layout. Today we're going to show you cutting foam an easy way and how to get rivers in. So I was forced into basically doing a couple rivers on this layout because of reusing sections of a previous layout, which you can see that one in the video section if you go browse, if you're curious about that. And instead of trying to cover them up, I figured why not? Let's go ahead and fit them in here somehow. So want to show you quick the tools that I use. So first up, let me move this over since it's liking to blow around. This is a kit that I found on Amazon and works out pretty decent. It comes with the foam cutter. This is what it looks like. And you have different attachments to it. You have this bent one, you have the straight one, and you have the typical foam cutting wire, and it comes with even replacement wire. Also comes with a scraper, a stand, and this blue marker pen, which works out pretty decent. I really like this. This does a really good job. It was only, I think, 20 bucks or so. I'll put a link to this down below. You just pull new ones on and off. It does get hot. It has an on-off switch right here, so you can see the light come on. It does get hot, so be careful not to touch it. You also want to have a fan on, have some good ventilation. I'll move my cord around a little bit, just because of the cutting of the foam. You don't want to inhale any bad fumes. Your first step then is to plan out roughly what the shape of your river is going to be. So you can kind of see where my bridges are. I've rough laid them out based off of where the track plan is versus where the bridges are going to be. They'll more or less be like this. And now we're going to take the blue pen, because it'll be the easy way to do it, and we're just going to draw. So we're probably going to bring this one this way. Follow through here, bring it back out this way. We're also, just for fun, probably going to bring it a little wide, have it almost follow that road that's right there. Now I don't think that road's going to stay, but yeah, it's there for a little bit. Let me move these out of the way. We'll probably end up cutting part of that out. Speaking of that, we're going to run this probably to there. Let's move a bridge out of the way. Okay, so we know roughly where that bridge is going to be. Kind of mark that off. Remember, we'll cover this up later with scenery stuff, so no worries. Same with this bridge. Roughly know where that's going to be. Just like that. All right, the last section here is this long one. Because we have the longer bridge, we're going to have to kind of curve the river a little bit. So move this out. Our river touches here. Going to bring it around. I'm going to go under and then connect it on there. So not bad. That's about all that we're doing there. For the initial cuts, let me move some stuff out of the way. These are 22-inch radius curves, by the way. These are guides that you snap into the rails. I 3D printed them myself, so if you see those laying around the layout, that's pretty much what those are. Turn this on, heats up pretty fast. The other thing that we're going to do while that heats up real quick, set that up there. I'm going to grab my knife, if I can find it, and we're going to go ahead and cut the plaster. Okay. So since we know we're taking out a lot of this section, well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just cut into it like this. See, since we know that's all coming out, for now, we'll just go ahead and cut straight across. The easy way to get that up, take the scraper that was came with the kit, And it's easy just to get under and start popping, just like this. There you go. It's going to follow that cut that we made to make it a nice even one. And then we'll clean this up after. But for now, to get this out of the way so we can do what we need to do, this will take care of all of our plaster sections. There's quite a few of the previous roads that are probably going to have to come up. There, just like that. Good enough. All right. Set this out of the way. Next up, take our knife. So this is what it's like. It takes basically no effort at all. You just want to go in nice and smooth. We're going to take these edges later and actually clean them up a little bit better. This is the part where having it being well ventilated comes in handy. We're going to do this. You notice I kind of do an up and down rocking motion. It helps it kind of sink to the bottom a little bit. One thing that we're going to do later is we're also going to put, we're going to mix plaster, put in the bottom of this river, and then that way it'll be a little more solid at the bottom. It'll look a little nicer, a little more uniform for when we paint it and actually put in the bottom to the river. The areas that I drew that are kind of out like that for the bridge, we might need to lower a little bit. These aren't very thick, so probably not. And then that section's going to get some 3D printed supports into it later. This is kind of what this nasty stuff looks like. You can use some of this old plaster to wipe it off. I'm going to get in here. Go ahead and cut right like that. There we go. So that's the initial cuts. We're going to turn that off for a second. Let it start to cool down. Usually take that off and set it upright somewhere. Usually in a holder. But for now, just so you guys can see it, we'll just stick it in there. We're going to switch to this attachment here. Just like that. This one's going to be a little more rigid for us, and we're going to go in and start basically cutting this out in sections. It heats up pretty quick, as you can see. I mean, that was pretty much lifetime of me turning that on. I'm going to show you how I cut a few of these sections out, and then I will skip the video so you guys don't stand here watching this for the next half hour or 45 minutes. And we'll come back with the final kind of shaping and sculpting. So now that you're in like that, I usually go under, set this off to the side. We're going to take the scraper, the spatula, whatever you want to call it, And you're going to just kind of start lifting up. You're going to feel if there's sections that haven't been cut. This will help cut them. And then just grab it like that. There you go. Be sure you have a trash nearby. You're definitely going to want it. Let me finish carving this out, and we'll come back here in just a minute. Okay, so that's carved out. We ran into two problems that I wanted to show you all. One problem, and that's okay, problems pop up in model railroading. One problem is the fact that the piece that we're leaving isn't glued down at all. So we got to glue that down. The other problem is that when we pop the river up, right there are two screws from the supports underneath. So a couple easy ways to do that. This happened in the other river. We're actually going to just basically use some foam and the knife, carve up some mini little, like sandbars basically that will stick on there. We'll glue that on there. This is what I've been using for foam glue. I'm going to show that to you, that way you can see it. Cut the end off, flip this over, and it squeezes out very slow. And you want to run basically a bead around, not exactly at the edges, because it's going to square out a little bit, but you want to run a bead like this. And then we'll probably let this dry overnight once it's in place before we do anything major to it. Like we won't do any sanding or sculpting other than with the knife. Put some in the middle. That's it. Flip this back over. Put it right back in place where it needs to be. Just like this. All right, we're gonna lay this on it, just to have some extra weight to help hold it in place. Oops, bumped the camera, sorry about that, guys. All right, I'm gonna move the camera over a little bit. I'm gonna show you next how we're gonna shape this river a little bit better before we do plaster and all that fun stuff. All right, I know I said plaster, I meant for that for later. We don't really have the plaster mix right now or the time because we're still trying to lay track and make sure that things are in here right before we do massive scenery detail stuff. But using this is what's going to give us our nice shapes along the edges. You can go and pull, or you can push. It's a little bit easier if you push, but kind of the same concept. You're going to come in, let it just kind of slowly work its way for you. There. Just like that. Peels off in sections. You're going to come back. And see, it's going to start giving us our nice, more gentle looking edges to our banks. And of course, we will paint and detail the rest of it later. You can get really thin on that too, which is kind of neat. We want some sharp edges, so we're going to do stuff like this. Kind of like the way that looks at a little bit of an angle there. This I wish was a little smoother, so you just kind of do this. You take off some little pieces. We're going to go over here, do the same thing to this edge. go. And let me move this quick so you guys can see a little bit better. Just like that. Right. I'm going to finish shaping this up, and then we'll be back to try out the bridges, make sure they fit, talk about next steps. Okay, we got that mostly cleaned up, good enough for now. You know, style that I like. What we're gonna do next, we're gonna cut this mini rock, if you want to call it, for the water out here, and let me move the camera, show you how we're gonna do that. Okay, first thing is, we have this piece. We're going to go ahead and just use kind of the corner of it right here, which seems to be fairly decent. Easy way is we're going to just go ahead, just basically cut straight through like this. Okay. We know we want it to stick out here. The next thing is that's a little high, so let's go ahead. We're just going to shape it. There we go. Take that off. And then we're going to use this to kind of just go around the edges. Remember, there's going to be a lot of the fake water here in the bottom, so it's going to help hide quite a bit of this, which is a good thing. It's kind of what we want. It's okay if it doesn't match up perfectly. That's something that we don't mind too much. I'm going to cut this down a little bit, just like that. We're gonna, there we go. Cut the end off a little bit. Make this more flat. Rotate this over a little bit. Be careful not to burn yourself if you're doing this. And you'll just keep kind of looking at it. We get it down kind of rounded into a shape that we like. Let's do this right at the edge. It's okay, sometimes those get stuck on there, no big deal. I'm gonna go that. There. All right. I like that. I think that ought to be fairly decent. Last step is we're going to kind of take, since it's off of the base right now, we're going to round this side a little bit out. Like that. We'll probably find some fake rocks or real rocks outside if you find little ones, put in there, and that's pretty much it. Put that in there, we'll glue that in place, we're good to go on that. One more step we need to do is, if you notice, there's a significant height difference right here. That's okay. What we're going to do to deal with that is we're going to take this piece of foam, cut it down. I did some quick measurements. And then on the other side of this, we'll probably use plaster at certain places. And then even right here where the track is, we might just kind of lift it with something else and then ballast it, so it will be just kind of a raised area. No big deal, not something I'm super worried about. But for this section in particular, we're going to do that here and at the next one. Easy way. We're going to make sure that this is fairly straight So nice and gentle, straight up. And there we go. Notice I made some marks. Just kind of rest this against the table. We're just going to drop this right down that line, like that. And then we're going to bring it straight across. There we go. Now, obviously, that piece is too high. So, first thing is, the bridge is right here. So we're going to go ahead and just drop it. Just like that. Piece of tape there. And then, let's take a look at basically where we need to be for height. And it's more or less right through there. So, same thing as before. Nice and gentle. Make sure your fingers are out of the way. Just like that. There you go. There's our section of foam. It's going to help hold up our track bed while we ballast over it, put our bridge, and then we'll kind of do it nice and gentle on the other side. We have one more section of that to do. It's going to be here. According to my marks on the ground, our bridge is right about here. So we'll cut that off. And then same thing. It's right. Should probably just mark it. It'll be easier. Right about there. Doesn't have to be perfect. There. Just like that. Be good enough to help hold up the track. Pretty decent. Okay, let's get the bridges in. We'll try and test fit them quick. There we go. Pretty happy with how that looks. That's going to help us have just a slight curve down, which is okay, and a slight curve back up. We may or may not need to put some support in here on this side, we'll see. But that's something I'm okay with. No real track is completely level everywhere anyway. But like the way that that looks. Bridge in the back, curves out and around the edge. It's exactly what we're looking for. Should be nice. This building obviously won't be exactly where it's sitting. It's just kind of sitting there right now because I didn't know where else to put it. It will be over here eventually, but that's part of it. Anyway, that should take care of it.